All right, Frank, take it away in three, two, one.
Hey, everybody. In this episode of iTalk Movies, we're getting up close and personal with actress and writer Jenia Tanaeva. Let's do it.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's iTalk Movies.
A little bit of the Gorillas playing us into this episode of iTalk Movies. This is a show where we get up close and personal with the people both in front and behind the camera that bring you all that great entertainment, whether you see it in the movie theaters, maybe at home on your mobile streaming device. I'm your host, Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HappyGoJackie. Now, the expression follow your dreams, it's easy to say, but it can be incredibly hard to do. Though my guest today is proof, though, that if you stick with something, incredible things can happen. Originally born in St. Petersburg, Russia, she came here to the States in order to better her daughter's lives. Now, she wrote a script and got the attention of, nobody, just Michael Eisner, and it has now been turned into a film. See you soon, starring Liam McIntyre and Harvey Keitel, and my guest. Not too shabby for pursuing your dreams. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jenia Tanaeva.
Hello.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. So, yeah, as I said in the intro, you came here from St. Petersburg to pursue a dream, and you come across Michael Eisner as somebody that is kind of instrumental in getting you where you are today. What's it like? How well aware were you of Michael Eisner when you first met him?
Well, when I met Michael, I had a script already.
Mm-hmm.
I had a script that I've been working on and rewriting and polishing for a couple of years. So, and a friend of mine introduced us, and I said, could you please read the script? I'd love your advice. Maybe you could give me some direction, something. And he's like, if you want me to spend like a couple hours of my time to read your script, then you should be prepared to hear one of the 4 answers I might give you. I'm like, okay, what are the options? He said, well, first would be, I think it's great and going to be picked up by 4 studios. So I was like, probably. I might not fall into that category. And he said second would be great but needs work. Third, unlikely. Fourth, it's garbage, put it in the trash. I was like, okay, cool. Please read it. Let's do it. So then we got together a week later for lunch. And we had, first course, then main course, and then we were at coffees. And I thought, I'm probably like option 4. And he just doesn't want to ruin the lunch. And he's waiting like till the last minute to give me the news. And then he said, well, by the way, I read your script. And I think I love the story. And I think it's great. And here is my notes to help you to improve it. And I think it could make an epic love movie. So to me, needless to say, it was so inspiring, so exciting to hear that. And, sometimes while working on this project, I had down times when you feel like it's not going to work, I'm not going to be able to make it, and then something like this happens. And it gives you like whole new inspiration and so much energy to move forward. And then I think, okay, if 100 more people would tell me it's not going to work, I have this guy telling me it's great. So I can make it happen.
Absolutely. Did you, because when I think of Michael Eisner, the first thing that comes to my mind is Disney and his long time ahead of Disney Studios. Is that your first association with Michael Eisner, or do you just think of him more just as general?
That's how what I heard about him. When I met him, that's what I knew about him when it came to his work. And he's tough. He's like very strong, and he's very like blunt kind of man. But if he says something, like you can take it to the bank, it means something. Like if he hates it, he's just gonna tell you like, sorry, or maybe not even sorry, just forget it. So to me, of course, it was like a huge compliment. And even to meet guys like this, it's like I wanted to know so much about like what is done, like his projects, how the hell he's got certain things done.
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, it's, especially while living in St. Petersburg, to hear about those things, it's like hearing about things happening in Mars or Jupiter, but somewhere really far away. And then, you get a chance to get really close to that and hopefully become a part of it.
You mentioned St. Petersburg, your hometown where you grew up. How would you pitch it to somebody that's never been to Russia? That like St. Petersburg is a place to go to.
Well, St. Petersburg is like an open-air museum of very best what Europe had in the beginning of 18th century. Peter the Great, the greatest Russian emperor, when he started building the city, he took a trip across to Europe, and his favorite palaces, cathedrals, other buildings, whatever he saw, he brought the creators and had them build the city. And luckily, people were able to save it, to save the look, to keep it this way. And it's very unique. And I'd say that people are super warm and friendly. And Russian people, like, we're very hospitable people. It's just some other opinions, sometimes going around. But when you're there, I think it's very enjoyable. Plus, also we have the white nights. It's such a unique time during summer when sun doesn't set at all. It's light. And we have so many islands all connected by the bridges, so they open the bridges to let the ships go, and it's really magical during summer. So,
how does St. Petersburg compare to Moscow?
Way more stylish, smaller, and St. Petersburg considered to be cultural capital of Russia for centuries. So it's nicer that way. Moscow is more hectic. Moscow has like more energy. Moscow is like too big, way overcrowded. But St. Petersburg, like we're like a quieter people, a little bit away from the capital,
Now, growing up, I understand you did rhythmic gymnastics.
Yes.
What made you to say, like, what was your interest in that? Because I do think of when you think like the Olympics, both winter and summer, that Russia has a big presence in both of those. Is that something that growing up, that's like, yeah, if you'd like to do some kind of sport, gymnastics is a viable option?
Well, I didn't really have much choice when I started that. I was 6 years old, and we're talking about communism time in Russia. So the trainer came to kindergarten that I was attending and looked at the girls and said, you, and you, I want to talk to your parents, have them call this number. I had no idea what was happening. And then my mom, and of course I was a very responsible child, I gave the piece of paper with a phone number to my mom, and she called, and they told us to show up in the gym. And we came there and said, okay, now she's going to be doing it 4 hours a day, 6 days a week. And we think she could be, at a great level, and our country could be proud of her one day. And that's it. I was in hell, I have to tell you, for 10 years, pretty much 10 years of my life, 6 to 16. That was when I stopped it.
Is it, understandably, getting into it, that's got to be tough for that 10 years. There's days when you're like, this is not something I really want to do. Can you share those feelings with your parents, or are you just kind of like, I can't share that, even though I hate it, I have to just keep doing it?
I did have that feeling, but I also shared those feelings with my parents. But my parents were raised during like a hardcore communism times. It's not about like what you want and how you want it. It's about what's right to do, what you should do. So they didn't know any better. And it was like, right now I'm thankful to the gymnastics for giving me what it gave me, like when it comes to self-discipline, when it comes to getting things done, when it comes to going after your goal and achieving it and training and getting whatever you need like together in order to fulfill it. So it definitely helped me a lot. But, when everyone was like playing outside and talking about boys and doing that stuff, I was in the gym. I was like school and half an hour to eat something at home, and then gymnastics. Come back home, eat, sleep. And it wasn't like too much fun. But then when we were like at the national competitions and stuff, and you do something amazing, and of course you feel so proud and so accomplished, and was good sides to that too.
I can imagine it's hard to stay motivated for something that you, at the time, just don't feel very passionate about. How do you keep yourself motivated?
With gymnastics, I wasn't motivated. I honestly, last few years. No, but the thing, I mean, it was pretty harsh. Like if you don't do something, you get beaten up by the trainer. So that was the motivation.
Yeah, that's true. To not get beaten up. Yep, that's a great motivation for sure.
You know, there is positive motivation, what you get if you get something done, and there is negative motivation, what you're gonna get if you don't do it. So it was more of that kind of motivation.
After the 10 years was up, was it you who decided that I want to step away, and was it easy to do, or was it
Well,
not?
I came up with like a brilliant idea how to stop that process. Well, we were allowed to eat just like a little bit. We couldn't gain like even a quarter of a pound because like when you do all the jumps and stuff, it could become very dangerous. So like we couldn't even think about like sweets or bread or like anything. And then if you gain a little weight, then you're in trouble with the trainer. So when I decided that I'm stopping it, for sure, I'm done. So I went to a supermarket right next to the gym, and I bought a huge loaf of bread. And I was standing right by the gym and eating it and waiting for the trainer to come out and see me doing that. Because I knew that after she would see it, there is no way back. Like, I don't want to like get killed by her or anything. So when that happened, and she came out and she was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just enjoying myself here. Like, how are you?" You know? And she's like, "Okay, we'll talk tomorrow." And I'm like, "Yeah, right." And then I get back home and I told my parents I am not going back there because this and that happened. But they understood at this point that was it. Done.
That was
finished.
easy. That was easy. Just to like the next day you don't go back and nothing
You know,
happens.
sometimes we need to do something just to put like an end on something, and that it was like a bit, like little stupid thing, but it was so meaningful to me. It was like really that big dot, you know, on that story. And yeah, I stopped going. Well, what could they do? It's not like they're gonna arrest you, even if it's Russia. It's not that bad, you know. But like to me, I was done, and that was, you know, my, I don't know, excuse, my reason, something, not to go there anymore. And also parents they were like, okay, I guess you're done.
So now that you decide, you put a dot at the end of that story, as you
Yeah.
said, did you already have something in mind? Like, once I get done with this, I know this is what I want to pursue. Or did you have no idea? All you knew is that you just wanted to stop doing this.
Oh yeah, I had plans. I wanted to eat things that I want to eat.
Big plan. I got to eat.
Yeah, but it was a big plan. It was a big deal. Then I wanted to spend time with my school friends. And, you know, I had some, like, classmates, but I never had time to really, like, make friends because I was, like, busy with sports all the time. So, and then I wanted to go do dancing, do something beautiful, something girly. That's what I wanted to do.
What was the first food that popped in your head? Like, when I stop, I'm eating this first.
I was just eating bread.
Bread was it?
It tasted so good to me. But imagine if you don't eat it at all, and then you buy like a warm, like with that crispy thing loaf of bread, and it smells good, and you eat it. And then, well, during that time, it wasn't that much in Russia because it was those rocky times, going from communism to God knows what we have right now, to that new regime, let's say. So, and I mean, the choice wasn't huge, but still there are things that you could eat that I wasn't allowed before.
Was it more, are you more of a sweets person or more of a savory person?
More of a savor, I'd say.
Okay. All right.
I like chocolate.
Baklava or anything like that?
I love that stuff too, yes. I have to confess, yes.
So you do all your eating, you do all your hanging out with your friends, you can talk about boys, you can do anything that you want. When you kind of feel like you've had, like you've basked in that, you've enjoyed it, when does in your head do you start figuring out like, well, this is what I want to do next, at least professionally. This is something I want to pursue, this is something I want to engage with.
Well, then I was 19 and I knew that I had to work. I knew that I don't want to stay there. I always knew I want to come to America. I remember in school when girls were talking, oh, I want to go to France, I want to go to Paris, I want to go to Italy. Like, where you want to go? I'm like, I want to go to the U.S. They're like, why? Why U.S.? Well, I love the system. I love the whole idea of American dream always seemed so appealing, so cool, even before I had the dream. But just the fact that you can accomplish whatever that is that you want, you can come up with your idea, and you have all the opportunities to make it happen, to make it real. It always seemed so appealing, and I always thought that whatever that is, I can figure it out. Like, I thought, why not?
Was something in entertainment kind of the ideal goal, or just being here in the U.S. and pursuing whatever kind of came up was enough?
At the time, I just wanted to be in the States. I wanted to live here. I wanted a better life. I wanted to have more opportunities. Like my first job that I got, like real job, I was working for an American guy who was dealing like with foreign investors in St. Petersburg. I was getting $200 an hour, $200 a month. That was my salary. It was great salary. I felt like I was so cool. You know, I stopped taking tram and bus. I was taking taxi, and I could buy like one like pair of jeans, a t-shirt or something a month. Plus, I had my money for food and stuff. So it was something. But of course, I knew that it could be way better. Like with the amount of effort when you work, I don't know, 14, 16 hours a day, like translating stuff, taking care of paperwork and meeting people and doing all kinds of work. I was doing everything there. Then you think, you know, it could be probably a little more than that, and you could probably just afford better things and like better life. And then probably the biggest minus St. Petersburg has is the weather. It's just horrible. It's gray most of the time. It never summer is great, and then we have probably 2 months during winter when it's like white and beautiful, like that fairy tale winter when it's really nice. The rest of the time it's raining and it's gray. It's like those 50 shades of gray in St. Petersburg. You have gray ground, gray sky, gray everything that's in between. It was like that. It still is like that. I just came back from St. Petersburg, 10 days ago, back to the U.S., and it is like that.
Just like you left it.
Very much.
In terms of American culture, what kind of access did you have to TV shows or films while you're living in St. Petersburg? Is it easy to watch any of that stuff, or is it challenging?
Right now, it's very easy. It's affordable. Well, when I was a kid, we had 3 TV channels, like USSR, Russia, and St. Petersburg. And they worked like, I think, 2-3 hours in the morning, and then 4 hours in the evening.
That was it?
That was it.
So during like the middle of the day, there's nothing on?
No. It's like it's a beep and some picture. Nothing.
Oh, man. So being able to watch a lot of movies or TV shows, it wasn't until you moved to the States that you really had access to see a lot of stuff?
No, it was probably till I was like 14, 15. Then it was improving. Just the whole system wasn't made for that. So like the whole country had to rebuild the networks and everything just to make it work, so we have access to something. And once that was done, the access is easy. You can watch whatever you want to watch nowadays. Like we have 500 channels, pretty much just like here. Russians and Americans and Europeans and
So growing up, what was one of the first movies you remember seeing that was from the U.S. that kind of really stuck with you?
Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman, really?
I've seen that movie probably like 50 times. No, we got, like, my dad bought somewhere, somehow, on like black market VCR. I remember that day. It was like as if you would bring here to the studio, I don't know, an alien or... I mean, it was that impressive, that unusual. So, and then it was The Predator.
Oh, yes, with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes. Then some other movie about some robot and The Pretty Woman. So we had 3 VCRs, the tapes. So, and Pretty Woman, obviously, among those 3 was my favorite. Oh, and then some movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, there's so many.
Yeah. So it was big variety. Yeah, I know.
Did he do the splits in that movie? Because I feel like he does the splits in a lot of his movies. So.
He did all kinds of stuff,
Yeah,
and
of
of course
course.
he won the big fight at the end.
Of
and
course.
all the usual things we expect from him to do. He did it. Yes.
So when you move over to the States, so I can see why Pretty Woman resonated with you, given like that your love for An Affair to Remember, and then the movie that you've written.
Still a Cinderella story.
Yes. So even from that early movie there, Pretty Woman, that idea just kind of burrowing its way into your head. When you move here to the States, when does the idea of like, hey, you know what, I should not just watch movies? Was it just as easy as watching An Affair to Remember, saying, you know what, I could write a movie?
I remember when I watched An Affair to Remember for the first time, it was on a plane. And I was like, the movie was over, I was still crying. I was like, oh, God. And then I just thought that it would be so good to create like a really heartwarming, beautiful love story. And I just started thinking about it. And then like very soon, actually, the story kind of was born. But I remember that An Affair to Remember had like huge impact on me. In particular, how two people were ready to change their lives, to fulfill their promises they've given to each other. Like all those things that I believe in so much, like giving a promise and stick to it, and like taking step forward and getting out of comfort zone in order to make those good changes in your life. And probably that's why it impressed me so much. I don't know. And then I thought, okay, it was done in 1957. How about 2000 something? I wasn't sure which year it would happen, but I started writing in 2012, 5 years.
Well, now, I know many people they would go so far as like, oh my gosh, that's a fun movie. Oh, I have an idea. I should write my own movie, and then talk themselves out of that idea. Whereas like, who am I? If I write a movie, it's probably not going to be any good. Did you wrestle with any of those demons, and how were you able to just push past that and say like, you know what, I can write a movie. My movie is just as much of a shot at being made as anybody else.
When I came up with that story, I thought it was so brilliant and so good, and that everybody would love it so much. I really believed in it, and like every time when I wrote it on a piece of paper, and every time I read it, I was like, oh, this is like, that's beautiful. That's very, very like heartfelt. But then it was a huge challenge to write it. And then when I got in that I would say in an unknown to me process, and a completely new process, that's when the doubts kicked in, because before we start doing something, we might be very confident about the idea. We might be very confident about I can do it, why not? But when we're in the process and you take like specific steps in order to make something happen, then it feels a little different, because you get stuck. I got stuck along the way, like, oh, how do I do that? Or that's what I want to say, but somehow it doesn't come out like this. Like, I got to change something. So, but then I believe one thing, like I read it a long time ago and it helped me, always helps me so much. Someone said, if you can dream it, you can achieve it.
Oh, I believe, was that Walt Disney say, if you dream it, you can do it? I believe that was him. Something very similar to that kind of expression.
By the way, speaking of Walt Disney, when he had his idea, 102 banks turned him down. 102 said, no, that idea is not going to work. And then 103rd, ABC at the time, the company, said, okay, let's do it. But I mean, it takes so much of belief in your dream, in your project, not to stop. Usually, we hear 5, 10, okay, 20 no's, but there are very few people who go beyond 100.
Absolutely. You truly got to have that belief.
Yeah, so, and of course, I heard it all that, what are you, crazy? Are you trying to do a Rocky thing? Are you, you're a Russian girl, you've never eaten anything, you never acted in anything, you're new here, come on, girl, And I've heard it all. I mean, I could write a book about polite and not so polite ways of saying no in Hollywood. So I've heard it, but then I just decided to myself that every time I hear no, every time I hear something that I'm not, happy with, or just something negative about the project or me in particular dealing with that project, I would just take it as that movie, that project is not for that person. But once you stop taking things personal and realize it's not about you, it's not about the project is bad or you're bad, it's about that it's not a good fit, it's not a good match for that specific person who I was talking at the time. And then it became so much easier because, you know, we all have our insecurities. Some people more, some people less. I had enough. I got way better during that process. It was, to me, it was also like a process of, you know, growth, and you have to overcome your own like difficulties again and insecurities in order to move forward, because otherwise you're not gonna get anywhere, you know. So that's kind of what I was doing. You just then it's not for you. Like one time I was, and in my case it's like I'm writing it and I have no writer's credit, and then I want to act in it, and then be like, come on. Just pick something one and try to achieve that, but to do all of that, that's not even realistic. Let's be honest. I'm like, okay.
Was that something you had to struggle with in the making of this film, that there may have been people that said, this is interesting, we would take the script, but we'd rather cast somebody else in your part? And was that something you had to be comfortable with saying no to, because you envisioned yourself not only writing it, but in acting it as well?
Yeah. One time I had a meeting in one of the biggest agencies in Los Angeles, and they told me, okay, give us the movie, the project, we'll love the script, we'll package it. Don't be stupid. It's going to be a big actor and a big actress, but there is no way it's going to get financed or done with you in it. Like, your name is nothing, doesn't mean anything. And I was like, yeah, I know. They're like, come on, give us the project, give us the script, let's work together, be realistic. And they were like this. And then I remember like few times it happened when I was like, first of all, it felt like painful. It's like, it's my baby, it's my dream. And then when you hear that either you have to give it away or it's never gonna happen, that was not an easy decision. And like, I wanted that movie to become real, to, you know, that project to be turned into a movie so much, like nothing else. But in the meantime, that's mine. I can't, it's like your baby, you know? You can't give it away. You want it to live, but you don't want it to live with some other parents. Like, you want to raise it and see it every day and all of that. So it was like that. And then, but few times I was like really thinking like hard that would I give it away? Would I give it to another actress?
Did you reach out? Were there friends that you could speak to kind of get advice or a second opinion about what you were kind of wrestling with?
Yeah, but people like who could like advise you on that kind of stuff? They say it's your decision. Like, it does make sense what those people say, but then like those things, it's like to give advice on I don't know, something very personal, because nobody knows how you feel about it.
True. They can speak to the facts, but not your feelings.
Yeah. And the facts, I couldn't agree more with the facts that they've been giving me. I'm like, yes, and yes. You're right. But no, I'm not going to give it away. It was, it was like that. But somehow, somewhere deep inside, I always believed that it's only about finding the right way to get it done. Finding the right way. And I was like, I can find it. Like, why not? Like, you know, and I just think that it's so important that your belief in your project's got to be way stronger than everybody else's disbelief. Because another thing in Hollywood, nobody wants to take risks. If you make a movie with, I don't know, Angelina Jolie, and it doesn't make money, and people would say, okay, we understand. It was Angelina Jolie. Let's think about studios, right? But if you make a movie with Jenia Tanaeva and invest in that movie and it doesn't make money, then it would be reasonable to say, like, what the hell you were thinking about? Why did you invest in that project? Who is Jenia Tanaeva? Like, why is that happening? So nobody wants to take risk. And considering that the business is, pretty risky to start with, like, very small percentage of movies that are being released make money.
Which is, I feel like the frustrating thing is, I'm sure you imagine going through this whole process, is that there are, hundreds, I'm sure, not thousands of scripts that could be very compelling, but they don't have a big name attached, or they have somebody that is just kind of new to the business. But and nobody's willing to take that risk, which and it could turn out to be an incredibly well-realized film if they were just given that opportunity.
Yeah, and I've read quite a few of those scripts, and I would think, like, how come it's not made, into a movie? Like, I'd pay and I would love to go and see that movie. But again, when it comes to signing papers or signing checks, then it's a very, like, I think people try to balance creative and what's interesting, what would really be, exciting to watch, with being financially safe and for a movie to be commercial.
Because that's why, truly, when you start seeing the business side of show business is in situations like that. One thing I want to ask you is that as you were talking about this, I read this in an interview that you did, it's like, as you're describing the movie, and the idea is like, hey, I want to do this about, like, Cinderella, but she's a single mom. And your quote was like, they were in the state of mind that I'm with a kid now, and I can't really have a full life of love, liquor, and family because I already have a child. I love that liquor gets second position right there, even before family. It's just like, no, I need my liquor.
Well, meaning, fun and all those good times that, I have so many, like, girlfriends that, I wouldn't say like so many, but I would say quite a few. And some women, I just know them, I'm not like friendly with them, who would say, yeah, but I have a kid now. Like, they like either divorced or in a relationship that doesn't make them happy, but at least it's a relationship. To kind of be safe, to be like conservative and thinking it's better than nothing, and thinking that they can't get the whole liquor and family and happiness and love and rock and roll story because there is already a kid. So in my case, like my kids, I never ever, not even like for one day, viewed it my situation as like that I have like an obstacle to achieve something, because even in like most difficult days when I would hear that nothing's gonna work and I'm just another Russian or foreigner wandering around in Hollywood with some crazy idea, I would come back home and they would give me that unconditional love, and they would be like, it'll be okay. And they've been like the greatest support. And then it just was more difficult for me to figure out like the logistics, because I'm not always available when I have kids.
Yeah, I imagine an incredible juggling act, because you need a job to be able to pay the bills and support your daughters, but you also need to be able to work on this project, but then you also need to be a mom too.
Yes.
How hard was it to kind of figure out balancing all three?
Well, when I was still in St. Petersburg, I got a job when my younger one, she was just 1 year old, and the older one was 3. So I got a job in a hotel, in the best hotel in St. Petersburg, and actually that hotel is in the movie. I have big love to that place. I love that place. It's like 140 years old in a beautiful building, very historical, it just has a soul, I love stuff like that. So, and I was working there as a guest relations. And then I became kind of in charge of all the VIPs and dealing with that. And I worked there all together 10 months, not too long. So, and then that job took me to Caribbean, where like head of one of the top biggest Russian companies was vacationing, and they were concerned, what if he doesn't speak English? So why don't we send the Russian representative to take care of that? It was the same company, the hotel in the Caribbean and the hotel where I worked in. So and I went there, and he basically asked me, okay, how much, like, who are you? Why are you here? And I was like, I'm a representative of a Grand Hotel Europe. Nice to meet you, from St. Petersburg. And he was like, okay, fine. So why don't you come work for me? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, how much you make there? I'm like, $500 a month. He said, how about I give you $1,000 a day and you just come work for me? And I'm like, okay, that's the deal.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, it was easy, but that job that I'm so thankful for, that opportunity to that person, gave me a chance to relocate. I took the girls because I had to travel a lot, but nobody cared where I would be travel from. So I could travel from St. Petersburg, I could travel from LA. I was just taking care of all the events worldwide and travel and doing all that stuff. I'm a pretty good organizer, I have to say. So I was doing it for 6 years, and that gave me a chance to work on my dream and, support the kids.
So the film gets picked up, decide we're going to go into production. They start doing casting. Liam McIntyre, Harvey Keitel, they join this. Harvey Keitel, come on now, that is fantastic. I mean, I know that, he helped like Quentin Tarantino for Reservoir Dogs. He's been in so many other great films. When you find out, when did the idea of like, hey, let's approach Harvey Keitel start coming into the whole process?
We brought in a casting director from the UK, from London, and we said, and I said that for that character, I loved Harvey's character from the beginning. He's like, his good card, but he's like sarcastic, he's cynical, he's hard, but in the meantime, he's just genuinely good man, very caring man. So, and that casting director from the UK, he goes, what about Harvey Keitel? And I'm like, what about Harvey Keitel?
He's great. Yeah, he's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And he said, so let's talk to him. Let's send him the script. I'm like, to Harvey Keitel, my script? Like, you joking? And he said, no, let's do it. And then Harvey responded actually very fast, saying that yes. And then he called back and said that the offer, your offer is fine, and he's on board. I couldn't even believe it. I was like, what happened? How was it? And then I remember when Harvey got on set, we were in Romania, and I was like so nervous to even go into his trailer to say hi, and I was just so, it was like nervous in a good way, excited, and then like I didn't know what would it tell me about my writing, about the whole thing. Like, it's still, when you deal with someone as big as Harvey, you might get your concerns, So, and then, so I was thinking, okay, I'm going to go 10 minutes and 15 minutes. And then his assistant comes and said, Harvey wants to talk to a woman who wrote it. I'm like, okay. And then he was like, I just want to know, how did you like come up with that character? How did you write? Because he's so much like me. I love him. And I was like, oh, Harvey, thank you so much. So nice to hear it. And he was such a sweetheart. He was a great support. He was so cool. And he was just like the feedback he was giving me, and he was so supportive. Was incredible. It was real like pleasure, but in the meantime, when I was with him on set, I felt like, I have to, it's like you feel obligated to be on a certain level, to perform on a certain level, just because such a great experienced actor next to you. But at the same time, when after action was called, I felt just a big support from him, and you just relax and enjoy the process. Harry was incredible. I'm very thankful for that experience with him.
Now, of course, the movie centers around Liam McIntyre plays a soccer player, deals with the World Cup in 2018. He plays for the American team, but is not able to pursue his goals and has to figure out what to do next. What made you decide sports was kind of like a good entryway into this film? Is it just because it's such as a universal appeal, or are you a big sports fan?
I am. I love soccer too. I know Americans not too big on soccer, to say the least, but still it's number one most watched sport in the world. And it gets very passionate, a lot of fun and great. But also, I think with all the, how do I say, miscommunications and differences now, like in politics and, when there are a lot of misunderstandings, I would say, between the countries, there are maybe 3 languages that we all understand, that we will always understand: love, sports, music.
That's true.
It's universal. It's same for everyone. And sometimes, people from different countries, after watching news on TV, would dislike each other, and then they sit next to each other in a stadium, or they meet in a romantic bar, or I don't know, some place, and then those differences, those borders, obstacles, they don't exist anymore. We just people, same. And
you may disagree on everything, but you can have that common bond
Yes.
over a
Yes.
sports team that you're really passionate about.
Yeah.
For you, when you started writing the script, were you always kind of changing what the event would be? So instead of, because you started in 2012, so I'm sure you're not thinking World Cup 2018 when you're first writing the script.
I didn't have the event in mind back then.
Okay.
So I just knew it would be like some big competition, some big deal event. And then when I was still in the process of trying to raise the money and trying to get this happened, it was 2 years ago, in beginning of 2016. And I was like, there is a World Cup in 2018. But that I set like a deadline for myself. That's like perfect reason and the perfect time just to get it done by. I also like this saying that goals are the dreams with deadlines. So that was thanks to the World Cup. My dream got a deadline.
Yeah.
So I gotta get it done by then. Because I was thinking that would be perfect time to release the movie. Because when, everybody's like fed up with soccer by the end of 2018, when we have the whole month of soccer all over the world, how much soccer you can take? It's like, okay, that's enough. And here I come with my movie. What about little more soccer,
No, you got to beat them to the punch, for sure.
Yeah. So it just kind of the circumstances came together. Plus 2018 World Cup now in Russia. It was perfect. Another thing, I have an apartment in St. Petersburg. I still keep my apartment in St. Petersburg. And there is a very old stadium that I could see from my window. And then they took it apart and they started building the new stadium. And every time I was looking out the window thinking, okay, they building that stadium for the World Cup. And what am I doing about it?
Yeah, that's true.
I should be doing something too. So there are little things here and there that I very much believe in those signs that the universe gives us. Just, it's always there. If we want to see, if we keep our eyes open and, take it, there is always help with motivating us, with guiding us. I believe in it.
Now, you mentioned having an apartment in St. Petersburg, but you were instrumental in, as you mentioned, that stadium, but opening up, getting a chance to shoot at several locations in St. Petersburg. Because I know some of the production was like, there's no way we're going to be able to shoot over there. And you were instrumental in making that happen. What was it like to be able to go guys, I got this. I can lock down a variety of different locations we can shoot at in St. Petersburg.
I thought with my love to that city, I got to be able to figure it out. After I figured all that out before, I thought, okay, that I can probably come up with something to do it. So we got a few no's to get permits to shoot in the locations that I wanted to shoot. And, I know all the best spots and views in St. Petersburg, like a back of my hand, it's so, and there was a no to this and a no to that. And Russian production company, they're like, okay, what do you want us to do? It's too much. It's like asking for too much. I'm like, okay, so I wrote a few letters, made phone calls, and long story short, I got a meeting with the head of Ministry of Culture in St. Petersburg. So, and he agreed to give me an hour of his time. So I came over there with a director, but our director doesn't speak a word of Russian, and the Russian government guys, they don't speak a word of English. So, but he was there. I was like, that's the director. And we printed out just a few pictures as a presentation of the project, just to give him idea of what it's going to be about. So, and then I said, okay, let me please present you this project. And I read the synopsis, I read them the story, I showed them the pictures, and I told them that I've been working on it for so long, and one of my biggest goals for this movie was to put St. Petersburg on the big screen. I really want people, like in the different parts of the world, to see how beautiful and unique our city is, and I love this city so much, so help me with this, please. And he was sitting like that the whole time. So I had like no clue. I could only see the eyes, but like where he was looking was a question too. So and then he's like, so what's the problem? Write a letter, they're going to give you the permit. I'm like, we did, but they said no. And he's like, who said no? And I'm like, may I take my phone out? He's like, sure. And I said like that person and this person. And then he got his phone and called and said, do you know like who you saying no to? This girl working so hard to like show our city to the whole world, and you all gotta help her, not to. I was like, oh my God. So he just called and yelled at all the people who said no. And he said, now follow up with that person, and if you have any more problems, here is my cell number, call me, we'll get it done. I was flattered. I felt so, I don't know, so humble, you know, like when something like that happens, it makes me just feel like just thank you for believing in me, thank you for believing in what I do, and then I have this feeling that I gotta make it even better, so that person would never regret that he agreed to help me. That one day he'd be proud of it, and he would say like, okay, I helped her when she was in trouble, like, you know, I did something for that project too. So I had that, and with every help like that, I always get that extra motivation. No,
Sure, you want to make sure that you're doing right by them,
Yeah.
since they gave you that opportunity.
Yes.
So, of course, you mentioned during this whole production, and this is your first time getting into everything. So it's one thing writing a script and not really knowing anything, but you're also a producer on the film as well, too. So what was the learning curve for you, like, as a producer on your own film?
Well, right now I can say that I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into when at the very beginning. When we went to pre-production, I was like, oh, I got this. By now, I know this and that, and I know what I'm doing. And I hired another producer to help me with all of that, because, you know, you can't be everything. Like, you gotta have help and hopefully sleep sometimes, you know, during the production process. So, but still, like, things would come up every day that I never expected to come up. I never knew about so many things, and it just, I'm a kind of girl that like it's my motto, I think. I think one of American presidents, like years ago, I don't remember the name, so I'm not gonna lie, but he said, someone asks you if you can do a job, tell them certainly I can, and then get busy and find out how to do it. So that's like the story of my life, you know? So, but when you're already in the process, you have no other choice. You gotta figure out how to do it. You gotta figure out who you deal with and how to solve certain problems and stuff, because at the end of the day, when something went wrong on set or something didn't work, people would come to me and they would try to solve it, but if it didn't work, then I was the person. And so certain things I was trying to deal with just in between the takes while playing my character, and certain things I was just doing at night. And it was challenging sometimes, but looking back at those 2.5 months of production, I'm so like thankful and grateful for like every minute of it, every day of it. And sometimes, you know, when you get like 3 hours sleep and then you have to function on set, you have to make your character come alive. And then so many people like questioned like my ability to act. They're like, okay, you better get a professional actress because you don't want to, like, mess it up after you came, like, a long way with all that. Like, how about this? And I'm like, that, I got it. That part's going to be great. But you still have to be, like, functioning properly, to be able to perform. So it was challenging at times, and then things didn't work out with the producer who I originally hired, and there was just a bunch of stuff that was unfortunately happening, like, behind my back. So we had to part ways right in the middle of production. I had no other choice. And then I had 2 weeks. We were in Romania, so I was getting up 6 a.m. No, 6:30. 7 a.m. I was in the car, 8 a.m. in the studio, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. shooting. 8:30 p.m. I was leaving the studio, 9:30 I was at the hotel. Till about 11 o'clock I would, like, eat something and rest. And then till 3, 4, sometimes 5 a.m. work, do all the producer's work. And then 6:30 you get up, and then you start a new day. And then I found another person who was, like, helping me a lot with all that, like, day-to-day stuff. She was great, and I'm very thankful because she saved me. I don't know if I'd survived till the end of production.
Like, an hour of sleep a night, that's tough to be able to go the distance for very long without some support for you.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing when you're writing a script, you're kind of writing the most idealized version of the story in your head. Mm-hmm. So it's like everything's possible. But then you're also the producer of the script that you've written. And all of a sudden you have to start thinking about the realities. Budgets come into play, actors' availabilities, locations, things that might be available that might not be. How hard was it then to be able to kind of let go of some of the idealized version of your script and just deal with the practical realities of making a movie?
Certain things were, like, very hard because, like, you sort of get married to certain ideas, certain scenes, and I was like, no, that stays, that can't go. And like, we had those talks with director, and he would be like, Jenia, I understand it's not this, but let's think about it. And then I just understood at some point that my, like, best bet is to stay as open as I can, to kind of get myself a little bit, like, distant from the script, and just try to think, I don't even know, just you zoom out and look at it not so closely, and, like, try to detach yourself a little bit. And sometimes when we really love some idea, we think that's it, that's how it's got to be. But there are so many other options, and we don't know which one's going to be better, but we're crazy about this one just because it was there from the beginning. So I always understood the importance of me being flexible and open to certain changes. And when I was told a few years ago that script's got to become 20 pages shorter, I was like, no, everything's so important.
Yes.
All that important information's got to stay. It's essential for each character. And they're like, no, like, let's give it to someone else. You might not even notice what got shaved off. So it's not an easy process. And then we dealt with it during editing. When we put all the scenes together, it was just way too long. And then you sit there and you make, sometimes very difficult decisions. And some scene could be, like, great and really beautiful and feel amazing, but for different reasons you would have to sacrifice it.
Now, you've completed the film. What would you say, words of advice now to somebody else that might be listening or watching that would be in your shoes? That's like, they have an idea of a dream. Should I pursue this? What kind of words of wisdom would you give to somebody after going through this whole experience yourself?
Okay, first of all, as I said before, you have to love it passionately. Not just, I want to do it, but love it with all your heart, because you need that fire and that passion to go through the process. You need a lot of it. Then you love it, you believe in it. Then I would say, like, practical approach, you just make a list of things that you need for that project. Then you mark things that you have, then identify the missing parts. And then you figure out right next to each missing part how you get it, what to do. And that's how like that big general idea that God knows how to approach gets broken down by, you know, specific steps. But once you start taking those steps, you think maybe like that much today, that much tomorrow, but still you're moving forward. And then I was amazed when, you know, I was like, okay, now I have to get this done and that done. So you keep the general idea in your head, but you take care of all those little things. And then they put together, but then there is always some magic's gotta happen. But I think when we being like, you know, passionate and motivated and do it with love and just have that good reason to do it. I wanted to create that fairy tale for single moms to say like, hey, you can have it all. It all happens, happy ends, and it will all be good. And just to, you know, give those big girls fairy tale, not just to little girls. And that passion, that desire just takes you through a lot. But while doing that, again, identify the steps and do something every day. And then you'd be just amazed how far you get by doing those little things.
And always leave room for liquor.
Oh, I don't know what would I do without it.
So See You Soon is coming out in spring of 2018.
Yes.
But if they want to keep up to date with what you're working on, the next projects for you, or to follow up on anything that's going to be happening with See You Soon, what's the best place for audiences to follow you?
I only have Instagram.
That's great. All right.
Yes, and See You Soon, we're just finishing the website, so everything would be there. Trailer is gonna come out soon. It's pretty much done, so it's all there now.
And what is your Instagram handle?
Jenia 2511.
Oh, all right. Look at that.
Very easy.
Ladies and gentlemen, my guest has been Jenia Tanaeva. Her film See You Soon is coming out in spring of 2018. Go see this. I mean, she's worked so hard. If you dream it, you can do it. And she's a perfect example of that. I've been your host, Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HappyGoJackie. We'll see you back here with another installment of iTalk Movies right here on Popcorn Talk. Have a good one, everybody.
You don't see with your eye, you perceive with your mind. That's the inner. So I'ma stick around with Russ and be a
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.